Well, we had a request come in from Substack, which is the first request I think we've had to come in from Substack. It's the main headquarters now. So you want to try it out. DianneMize.substack.com. Okay, back to this. This person says, I have a question for you. In a quick tip you did about 7 years ago on YouTube, you talked about the colors on your palette, but I've noticed more recently that your palette has changed. And the question is, what colors do you have on your palette now, and why did you change it? Well, a little change never hurt, did anybody? Well, you can blame the color wheel for my palette change. Well, there are two ways my palette has changed recently. One is I have a new palette. I wore out the old one, little pochade box I use here, made by Sienna, and I've been using the other one for about, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and it's gotten really just impossible to work on because became so unstable. So I have a new palette, but I took that opportunity to do something I had been wanting to do with the old palette, and that is eliminate some more colors on the palette. When I first started painting, or no, I guess I should say, when I was in undergraduate art school, I became really fascinated with how color behaves. And I've been more and more fascinated by that over the years. And then when I discovered that I can learn more about how color behaves from the color wheel, a combination of the color wheel and my painting, than I can just working with tube colors. So that's how I got really involved in the color wheel. So early on, very early on, I set up my palette according to the color wheel. Now, then over the years, I realized that it was more effective in my painting process, more effective to not use earth colors to get my neutrals, but to get them from complements. And I began to weed things out, weed tube colors out, so that I could get it down just to a bare minimum number of colors. And now I have it, I'm not talking about white now, I'm talking about just the tube colors, have it down to 10 now. And I want to show you, the question was how and why. That's the why, but I want to show you more of the why. And so I'll just put the color wheel right here for the moment. Well, I'll be picking it up back and forth. So in this direction, my palette is arranged according to the color wheel. Now, to put it down here just for a moment. You can see yellow, yellow, orange, yellow, yellow, orange, and so forth as it goes around. And the characteristics I've been considering as I've been narrowing this thing down have been the darkest dark possible for one of the characteristics of colors I would keep, and the degree of transparency, because I found that that was very important in getting the degree of values that I want, and also in mixing to keep the colors nice and clean. Well, so I began with the yellow, and I've narrowed down. At one point I had about 3 yellows on my palette. I was influenced by the school of thought that you should have a warm yellow and a cool yellow on your palette. But I found I didn't really need to have a warm and cool, because if I had a very, very warm color of yellow on the palette, then I could add a little bit of green or blue to it and cool it. So I discovered I didn't need that cooler green. And so therefore I ended up with the yellow. Okay, I'm going to show you now. This is my favorite yellow. Of course, then the concern about the cadmiums being not good for us came in, I don't know, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It's been a while. And everybody got concerned about eliminating cadmiums. And that's when I discovered Hansa Yellow Light. But I like the color so much, and it has quite a slight transparent quality to it that I like so much, and the way it behaved in all my mixtures, that I eliminated the cadmium yellow light from my oil palette. But I found only one company that makes the Hansa yellow light that I like, and that's the Utrecht company. And so this is Utrecht Hansa yellow light. And I'll show it to you. I've created a little, you can see it's slightly transparent. Now, if you put cadmium yellow light there, then you would see that you wouldn't see that line coming through. So that's, I like that. If I want it more opaque, then I can add white. Usually if I want it more opaque, I would add white anyway. But that really works, and I found that it really works well. So as I'm moving around the wheel now, the next color on the wheel is yellow-orange. I've found that this yellow-orange works very, very well, and the reason is that yellow ochre is also a yellow-orange. And so if I just have the yellow-orange, the cadmium yellow deep is this color, and it's made by Rembrandt. That's my favorite cadmium yellow deep. So I found that if I have that, I can mix across the color, across the wheel, I can mix blue violet with it and get all kinds of yellow ochres, raw siennas, and variations I really enjoy working with. So that is my yellow orange. And so I'm going to show you how that works on the right here, just like that. Now you see that's more opaque. That's fine. Works just fine. I really love working with that color. You can see the next color on the color wheel is orange, but I decided I don't need the orange because the color beyond that is red-orange. And we have, oh, by the way, these are the highly saturated colors. That's important. I wanted to put as many highly saturated, meaning that it's got the purest, the most hue in it of any tube color available is what that means. So the Hansa yellow light is highly saturated. The cadmium yellow deep, which is my yellow orange, highly saturated. And the cadmium red light is highly saturated. And oh, is it highly saturated. I can mix these two and get that orange. So, yellow orange. I got the yellow orange and then the red orange, and I put those two together and I get the orange. I get the pure orange because, of course, red and yellow create orange. And then, of course, we've got the orange quality in both of them, or the yellow quality. So those make a wonderful orange. So I'll show you the cadmium red light right here. Now see how opaque that is? So that's a really, really strong tinting strength color too. So I have to go really, really easy with it when I'm mixing. Now, another issue is when we have these really, really light, fully saturated colors, how do we make them darker? Well, I found that if I go with a dark version of a red-orange, that does contribute a whole lot to creating a good value range, but it does other wonderful things too to the cooler colors. And so this is the Rembrandt Transparent Oxide Red. Now, I discovered that color through Richard Schmid and discovered that it's really a tube color that I can't live without. And I'm going to show you now. It's very, very dark, very, very transparent, but slightly desaturated. Of course, dark colors do tend to be, but you see, you have that quality of the transparency in there. But these are both the same hue. This is just somewhat desaturated. And I love that clarity in there because it gives me rich, clear mixtures with the greens and the blues. So that's why I chose that one still on the palette. Another hue, tube color, that has gotten some bad press is alizarin crimson. It's been one that artists have depended upon and loved deep down in their hearts for centuries, really. But then someone discovered that it had a slight light destability in certain kinds of light, and everybody got up in arms, and finally the manufacturers had to invent a substitute. Well, this is by the way, Did I say that's Rembrandt? This brand is Rembrandt. This is the alizarin permanent that's made by Gamblin, and I really love the Gamblin paints. So this is the alizarin permanent. That's the red. Now that is, I don't have a red, but I can mix this with just a little bit of that. This does have just a lean tight. People think it leans slightly towards violet. It might just a little bit, but I find it's just a little bit desaturated. But dark colors are. So, and if I mix it with this cadmium red light, I get a really nice red, of variations in red. So this is the alizarin permanent, and there it is right there. And you can see how transparent it is. And when you put it on just thin like that, it really appears in a lighter value, which you can use to your advantage, or it mixes so well with the cooler colors on this. That mixes so well to do wonderful things in all kinds of directions. But I'm not going to go into, I can't go into everything all these color mixtures will do because there's so much that I probably leave something out. Okay, so then the next color on the palette, went through the red, orange, and then the red, is my red violet. Now I found that it's also a wonderful, wonderful color to have on the palette. It does all kinds of things for me. The red violet I chose is quinacridone violet made by Gamblin. I've got this list right here if you want to do a screenshot of the list if you're interested in trying out this palette. So here it is. This is the quinacridone violet. And you see it is transparent, but it's very, very dark. And so it hides, it's because of the very, very dark that it hides the line. It's really, really strong tinted strength, but a color that I think I can't live without. It does so many things. Now, there's a color, the next color on my palette is one that might get deleted in the next iteration of my palette because it is a violet, and that's the next color on the color wheel. So red violet, so I'm going around just like this, red violet right here. There's violet right there. But I can mix this, the quinacridone violet, the red violet, and then the ultramarine blue, and I can get all kinds of ranges and very nice violets by doing that. But this is very, very dark. It's really probably the darkest color I have on the palette, and gives me that dark sometimes when I need it. And so, just show you what it looks like right here. And very strong. Look at that. See how dark that is? It's almost black. Feels almost black. See a little bit of hue in it. But then when we thin it out, you can see that it really is a higher tinting strength. Or you add white to thin out and other things too. I'll just put this a little bit right here. You see there? We can see a good bit higher tinting strength there. And so that's my violet. But it might go. It depends on how much I find myself reaching for, especially when I need to go very, very dark with that range of hue. The next color in the blue range, well, of course, we have the blue violet. Well, I don't really need a blue violet on the palette because I have full potential between either this blue, I use ultramarine blue for my blue, so I have potential between the blue here and the red violet here, and to get that violet, so, that blue violet, I'm sorry, I could get the violet that way too, but then I lean it a little bit more towards blue with more blue and less of this, and I can get the blue violet. So I don't really need the blue violet on the palette. I'll bring this down just a little bit here. Give myself a little bit more room. But I do need blue. And so because blue is so important to a number of mixtures, and I need a clear blue. I don't want cobalt. I want one that's darkest dark it will go. I don't want cobalt because it tends to be more opaque and more a little bit lighter. So that's why I prefer ultramarine blue. And so we'll put that here and show you that, how that looks in its purest form. You see that too. All of these are all of these except for my transparent oxide red. a very high in tinting strength. Now, all right, now then I get to the blue-green. Well, there's phthalo blue, there's phthalo green, and there's cerulean and all bunches of tube colors that are in the blue-green range. But I found that if I just use one blue-green and we're mixing it with blue, I can lean it more towards a blue of blue-green. Mixing it with green, I can lean it more towards the green, or mixing it with yellow-green, actually. Talk about that in a minute. And so I've discovered, and this again was through Richard Schmid, not just Viridian. Viridian, the old-fashioned Viridian, is ugly, milky, and too light. And what did I say? Did I say that it's too opaque? But this Rembrandt Viridian is a wonderful dark. It has about the hue of phthalo green. Now, phthalo green is darker because it's higher in tinting strength, but the Viridian is a wonderful blue-green. The Rembrandt Viridian. Now, I want to make that clear. I tried out Gamblins, then it doesn't do anything for me. I've tried out other brands of Viridian or attempts to be a Viridian like this, and nothing does it. Nothing has that clarity and will give as many possibilities as this. And I think I have another quick tip just on green, or maybe just on the blue-green. And then one other color. All right, and if you look at the color wheel, you'll see that the next color is green right here. But I don't need a green, because if I have a yellow-green, which I'll introduce to you in just a moment, with my blue-green added to the yellow-green, it does the same thing as the yellow-orange added to the red-orange, these tertiaries, as long as they're in that strong tinting strength, not strong tinting, and those they're highly saturated. So I have a yellow-green, a dark yellow-green that I absolutely love, but is no longer made. And that is the Daniel Smith sap green. And I'll show you this. Now, it's slightly desaturated. Let's pull that color wheel. Oh, well, I'll just put it out of the way for the moment. Slightly desaturated. But you see how dark and beautiful that is? And now, if we would, the same thing with that one. If we pull out just a wash of it, you can see it's also slightly desaturated. But if I want a highly saturated yellow-green, then I can use this highly saturated Viridian blue-green mixed with Hansa Yellow Light. So I'm covered right there. To add more saturation to this, I can do the same thing. But because it's not made any longer, one of these days I'm going to have to delete it from my palette. I have friends and students who have seen tubes of Daniel Smith sap green in the stores and have brought me several tubes and sent it to me, and I love it. So I have a stock for the future for a while, but there will be a time when the Daniel Smith sap green will be no longer available to me. I have discovered that Rembrandt makes a sap green that will be fairly good substitute. It's just a little too blue for what I expect of a sap green. But that's my yellow-green, and as you can see, it's slightly desaturated. So the only two colors on my palette that have a significant desaturation or somewhat neutral are the sap green and the red-orange, the dark red-orange. And, of course, the sap green is yellow-green. The red-orange that I have here is a transparent let me reach for it. Transparent oxide red. Sometimes I just get a brain skip, let's call it. So here it is. This is the list. If you'd like to give these a try, of course, the white I prefer is not a hue. The white is, I prefer the Gamblin titanium white. And so that's the white that I have on the palette. So I have found, and you'll find in all the videos all the YouTube videos and my lessons and in the courses. So I have found I can create all the neutrals I want. I don't need burnt sienna. I don't need burnt umber. I don't need yellow ochre. I don't need any of those neutrals. at all. I can create them from this just by using the color wheel as a guide. And the colors opposite the traditional color wheel. The Moselle wheel will not work like this. So this is a traditional 12 unit color wheel. And if you use this as a guide, you will have the ability to mix any neutral, any degree of neutral that you see. So that's the reason I just eliminated some colors from my palette. Didn't really change it beyond just eliminating some. And as I said before, I may eliminate some again. So if you want to give that a try, as I said before, do the screenshot and let me know what you think. Be sure to view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.